Hi, welcome to my video on the review of rational numbers. If you notice, I have a total marked down. The total on this review is 44. So if you wish, you may obtain or have 4 blank sheets. Notice this is page 1 of 4. The page 2 of 4, 3 of 4, 4 of 4 have all the questions. So we get 3 blank pages or 4 blank pages. On this page, write review of rational expressions, write down total equals 44. When you get your marking done, you add up the total on the bottom of each page and take the number and put it over 44. Divide 44 into this number and with a calculator or in your pencil. Change it to a decimal, move your decimal 2 places to the right and you'll get your percent. So don't forget, the review of rational numbers can be treated as a quiz or an assignment or whatever you wish to see how well you do in understanding the rational numbers. Page 2 of 4. Notice I have all the questions here, and you may work out each one of these questions, and if you get it right when I'm going through, then put a 1, a 2, a 1, whatever, and total up the number on the page. So let's start. Review of rational numbers. Which one is not a rational number? A rational number is a fraction. And a rational number is A over B, where A belongs to the integers and B belongs to the natural numbers. So yes, that's a rational. 3 over 1 is rational. 12 over 9 is rational. And notice that root 2, as we discussed earlier on, the square root of 2, let's turn on the calculator and do the square root here. Oops, sorry. Let's get the square root. That's getting the square root of the answer. So square root, no, I still can't do it. So 2 square root, no. And let's clear it. Oh, I got it. Just had a little square root. Because it's in yellow, I have to hit the second function first. So the square root of 2 is 1.4142. Notice it's not a repeating decimal, so the square root of 2 is the number that's not irrational. Simplify each. Negative 6 over negative 7 is negative 6 over 7 because you're not supposed to have a negative in the bottom. And we have 3 negatives here, so negative over negative is a positive. So this is a negative 2 over 9, or you can go negative 2, 9. So you put the negative 2 on the top or the negative outside. Are negative 4 over 10 and negative 6 over 15 equivalent? We'll divide by 2, I get a negative 2 over 5. And divide by 3, I get a negative 2 over 5. And the answer is yes, they're equivalent. Write an equivalent rational number to negative 3 over 5 with a denominator of 100. So negative 3 over 5, and I want 100 on the bottom. So that means 5 into 100 goes 20, so 20, and I have to put 20 on top to balance it out. So negative 3 times 20 is negative 60 over 100. So negative 60 over 100 is the equivalent fraction to negative 3 over 5. Number 5. For the statement to be true, place that symbol is pointing to the right, so that's greater than. That symbol is pointing to the left is less than. If you point to the right, any number to the right of another is greater. Any number to the left of another is less. So there's 2 ways to do this. Notice I have no negative in the bottom, so I can go negative 3 times 3 and 5 times negative 2. Negative 9. Negative 10. On the number line, a negative 9 is to the right, so that's a greater. I could get a common denominator if I wish. I just do 1. Common denominator is 15, so you multiply by 5 and 5, so that gives you negative 10 over 15. If you multiply by 3 over 3, you get negative 9 over 15. And again, the denominators are the same, so it's the numerators you have to look at, and that's the same as looking at a negative 9, negative 10, so that's greater. Cross multiply, negative 4 times 3 and 7 times negative 1. Remember, we're doing A over B and C over D. So remember, A times D compared to B times C. That's what we're really doing. So a negative 12 and a negative 7. Negative 12, negative 7, negative 12 is on the left, so that's a less than. Number 6, we have a number line, 0 here, so that's a negative 1, that's a negative 2, that's a negative 3. Graph each on the number line. Negative 2 and 3/8. Negative 2, negative 1, negative 2 is in between here. So notice it's divided into 8 pieces, so cut it in half. Almost in half. You see I'm a little bit off to the left there. So that's half. If I cut it half again, I got quarters. So if I cut it in each piece in half again, I have eighths. So 3/8, a negative 2 and 3/8. 1/8, 2/8, 3/8. So there's negative 2 and 3/8. And a negative 1 and 2/3. Negative 1, negative 2 is in between here. So it's divided into 3 pieces. So 1, 2, 3. Make 2 cuts. 3 pieces. So negative 1, negative, that's 1/3, and that's 2/3. So there it is right there. Negative 1 and 2/3. Change negative 3 and 2/5 to an improper fraction. So remember, 3 times 5 is 15, plus 2 is 17 over 5. And we know it's negative. We don't go negative 3 times 5 is negative 15 plus 2. That's wrong. You go 3 times 5 plus 2, and then you put the negative after. So you don't do negative 3 times 5 to get negative 15 and add on 2 to get negative 13. That's wrong. Again, repeat. 3 times 5 plus 2. Make it negative after. Change to a mixed numeral in reduced form. 6 into 9 goes once, and 3 left over. And it's negative. And it's a negative 1. 3 into 3 goes once, 3 into 6 goes 2. So negative. So, how many did you get right? Put your total down the bottom. Page 3, more simplifying. So here we go. Simplify each. So we're adding fractions. So we need a common denominator called 9. Write it down. Add a negative and negative is a negative 6. When we add 2 negatives, we add them up and take a negative. And 3 goes into both of those numbers. Negative 2. 3 into 9 goes 3. So negative 2 over 3. And when we're adding, we should change mixed numerals. 16 plus 1 is 17. Change it to an improper fraction. Change it to an improper fraction. And if you do that, then it makes it easier when you're adding and subtracting the negatives, and adding a negative and a positive. So common denominator is 8, so I multiply by 2 over 2. So I get a negative 17 over 8. Add on 14 over 8. Common denominator is 8, so you write it down. Negative 17 and 14 is negative 3. When you add a negative and a positive, you subtract the numbers to get 3, and there's more negatives, so it's negative. Or remember, the absolute value of negative 17 is 17. The absolute value of 14 is 14. The bigger absolute value is this one. But I always say, subtract them, and which is there more pluses or more minuses, just as fast. Common denominator for 10. 10 is 2 times 5. 15 is 3 times 5. So you write down one factor of each. You got to write down 2, 3, and 5. No more exponents, so 6 times 5 is 30. And you multiply 15 by 2 over 2. You multiply the 10 by 3 over 3. That gives you negative 9 times 3 is negative 27 over 30. Plus 2 times 2 is 4 over 30. Common denominator is 30. Add negative 23. And 23 is prime, so it can't reduce. So how many marks did you get? How many you get right? State the opposite. The opposite means change the sign. So the opposite of that is the 7 over 11. Opposite means change the sign. Change a positive to a negative or a negative to a positive. Complete the statement. 2/3 plus what number gives you 0? Well, they have to be the opposite of each other to get 0. So negative 2/3. simplify each. We're doing subtraction. So one thing I do when I subtract, I add on the opposite. Both denominators are 13, so -6 and +4 is -2. And change the mixed numeral to an improper fraction. 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5 over 2, but is negative. And because I subtract, I'll add on the opposite. So that's done. Subtracting is adding on the opposite. Common denominator is 6, so I'll multiply by 2 over 2 and multiply by 3 over 3. -5 times 3 is -15 over 6 plus -2 times 2 is -4 over 6. Common denominator is 6. Add up, you get 19 negative. Add them up and take a negative. And 6 into 19 goes 3 6s are 18 and 1 left over. But remember, it's negative. C, we're going to subtract these. We're mixed numerals to improper fractions. 1 times 6 plus 5 is 11. 2 times 4 is 8 plus 1 is 9. Have that done. And because I'm subtracting, I'll add on the opposite. Common denominator for 6 and 4 is, you could say 12, right? It's an easy one to get. 12, so it's 3, and 12 is a 2. So 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 11 is 22. 3 times 4 is 12. And -9 times 3, 3 9s are 27, and is negative. Because the product of unlike signs is negative. So we have a common denominator called 12, so we add. -27 and 22 is 5 in the difference, but it's negative because there's more negatives. How many did you get right? And number 13, we're multiplying. And what's the rule? When you're multiplying fractions, I prefer to cancel anywhere from top to bottom, anywhere. You can go from numerator to denominator right here, or you can go from numerator to denominator there, or you can go from there, cancel here, or you can cancel from there to there. So again, when you're multiplying, you can cancel. Makes it easier. Why multiply? Let me illustrate. Why multiply these numbers to get -60 and multiply to get 150? Now reduce that down. So you have to go zeros, cancel, and 3 into that goes -2, 3 into that goes 5. You could do that, but if you want, cancel. Because you're multiplying fractions, you can cancel from top to bottom. 6's cancel, 1, -1. 5 into 10 goes 2. 5 into 25 goes 5. Multiply, -2 over 5. Easier to cancel than it is to multiply and then cancel. Cancel first and then multiply. B, we're multiplying fractions, so we cancel from top to bottom. 5 into -5 goes -1. 5 into 15 goes 3. 3 into 3 goes once. 3 into -9 goes -3. 3 into -3 goes once. 3 into 12 goes 4. So what do we have? We have negative times a negative is -1, and 4 times 1 is 4. Again, if you multiply that out, you have a harder time reducing it down. Cancel. When you're multiplying fractions, cancel anywhere from top to bottom. But you have to be multiplying. You cannot be adding. You cannot be subtracting. You cannot be dividing. You can only cancel when you're multiplying fractions. Remember that. Keep those rules. If you write the rules down in your head or write them on a sheet of paper, then it's great. And number 14, simplify. We're multiplying. So we have a mixed numeral. So we make a 35 and 9 is 44 over 35 minus times 7 over 11. So we change the mixed numeral to an improper fraction. Now because we're multiplying, cancel from top to bottom. 11 into 11 goes once. 11 into -44 goes -4. 7 to 7 goes once. 7 to 35 goes 5. And what do I have? -4 times 1 is -4. 5 times 1 is 5. Notice cancel. Perfect. And they normally work out. Teachers make them to work out calculus. When I did calculus in university, The problems that hard seem to be hard, but they always worked out with good numbers. Remember that. Simplify. A, we're cubing. Negative 2/3, negative 2/3, negative 2/3. 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8. 3 times 3 is 9 times 3 is 27. And we got 3 negatives, so we get a negative when we multiply it. Check. Negative times a negative is a positive. Positive times a negative is a negative. But if you multiply an odd number of negatives, you get a negative. If you multiply an even number of negatives, you get a positive. And we change the mixed numeral to an improper fraction. 4. 1 times 4 plus 1 is 5 over 4 and is negative. And we're squaring it. Negative 5 over 4 times negative 5 over 4. Negative times a negative is a positive. 25, 16. When we multiply like signs, we get a positive. Unlike signs, you get a negative. And 16a, we're dividing. So when we're dividing, we multiply by the reciprocal, which is 30 over 16. We got the division changed to multiplication. Now we cancel anywhere from top to bottom. 8 into 8 goes negative 1. 8 into 16 goes 2. Now I can cancel here with 5s, or I can cancel the 2 into the 30. So let's go with the 2. Goes into 2 once. 2 into 30 goes 15. Now I can cancel 5 here. 5 into 15 goes 3. 5 into 45 goes 9. And I didn't go down enough because I could have divided 15. 3 into 3 goes once. 3 into 9 goes 3. So let's see what we got. Negative 1 and times 1 is negative 1. And 3 times 1 is 3. Notice if you don't reduce far enough, you look at this fraction to see if it's fully reduced, because you might have a common factor. You might miss. B, we change the mixed numeral to an improper fraction. 12 plus 1 is 13 over 3 and is negative. 2 times 12, 2 times 6 is 12 plus 1 is 13 over 6 and is negative. When you're dividing fractions, you multiply by the reciprocal. 6 over 13. Now the negative don't go down here. Yes, you can put it there, but really we should have a negative 6 over 13. Even though I could have done 6 over negative 13 like that, remember the negative goes, the negative is put on the top because this fraction is positive divided by negative is a negative. So the negative never goes in the bottom. So even though I'm thinking about putting it down there, I don't. When I finished, I put the negative on the top. Cancel. 13 to 13 goes 1. 13 into negative 13 is negative 1. 3 into 3 goes once. 3 into negative 6 goes negative 2. And negative times a negative positive, 2 over 1, which is 2. State the reciprocal of negative 4 2/3. Well, we got 12. 4 times 3 is 12, plus 2 is 14 over 3. Negative. Change it to an improper fraction first. Now the reciprocal is a negative 3 over 14. Notice the reciprocal. If you do the reciprocal, you get 3 over negative 14. When you do the reciprocal of that as it is, but instead of having the negative on the bottom, you write it as negative 3 over 14. And 18, the last one on page 4. Ooh, we got order of operation. PEMDAS. P-E-M-D-A-S. You heard me say in all my videos. Extremely to know the order of operations. We have to do inside the brackets or parentheses first. Here we go. Inside. 4 over 5. Bracket. Squared minus 3 over 10. So I'm working the inside. The inside of this common denominator is 4. So I multiply a half by 2 over 2. Negative 3 over 4 plus 2 over 4. 1 times 2, 2 times 2. Same denominators. So let's finish that off. And we get a negative 1 over 4. Common denominator is 4. Add that up. You get negative 1. Now, we got the brackets done, and the exponents, I got to write down 3 over 10. So I got my bracket done inside. Now I got an exponent, so I do that next. So I do 4/5 And what's that going to give me? Minus 3/10. So when I square negative 1/4 times negative 1/4 is negative 1 times negative 1 is 1. 4 times 4 is 16. Now, we got that done. So we do multiplication division as we go from left to right. So I have a multiplication here. So that's all, and I subtract last. When I multiply these two, I am multiplying fractions, so I cancel. 4 into 4 goes once. 4 into 16 goes 4. That gives me 1 over 20. 1 times 1 is 1. 4, that's a 4 times 5 is 20. Subtract 3 over 10. And notice I'm subtracting. When I'm subtracting, I add on the opposite. Common denominator for 20 and 10 is 20. So you multiply by 2 over 2. So 1 over 20 plus negative 6 over 20. That gives me a negative. 20 is my denominator. I get a negative 5. And a negative 5 is divisible by 5 because it's GCF. 5 into negative 5 is negative 1. 5 into 20 goes 4. And PEMDAS, P-E-M-D-A-S, order of operations. Any brackets? No. Any exponents? No. Now I better change my mixed numeral to an improper fraction. First, 1 times 2 plus 1 is 3 over 2. So if I do that, it makes these working, makes them more workable. Now, I got to do multiplication and division as I go. So I have to do these two first and these two next. So I have to multiply and divide from left to right. So I'm going to multiply first. 2 into 2 goes once. Nope, I can't cancel there, sure. That's 3 into 3 goes once. 3 into 18 goes 6. The 2 is still here. That's still a 2. I thought I'm going to divide 2 into 11. I can't. I get 5.5. It wouldn't be any good. Multiply, I get a negative 11 over 2 times, that's a 2. So 2 times 6 is 12. Add on. I'm dividing, so I better, let's work that out on the, I can work it out here. 1/3 times negative 5 over 3. Remember, the negative never goes in the bottom. So I got that multiplication done. This division is a negative 5 over 9. As you multiply by the reciprocal. Don't forget when you divide. Now, common denominator for 12 and 9. Let's see, 12 is 2 times 3 times 4, which is 2 times 3, so that's 2 squared times 3. 9 is 3 times 3, which is 3 squared. So I need a 2 and I need a 3. In relation to 2, I need the highest exponent of 2 is 2. The highest exponent of 3 is, that's a 1, that's a 2, so it's a 2. So 4 nines, common denominator is 36. 9 to 36 goes 4. And 12 into 36 goes 3. So that gives me negative 33 when you multiply over 36. Add on. When you multiply, you get a negative 20. 4 nines is 36. Common denominator is 36. Add. I get a negative 53. 36 into 53 goes once. And what's left over? 17 over 36. And is negative. So negative 1 and 17 over 36. Sorry about the little error here. I was dividing by 2, but I couldn't. I couldn't divide by 2 because 2 is not a factor of 11. That brings us to the end of a review on rational expressions. And if you like the video, click on the like button, the subscribe button, notification bell. If this is the first time doing my videos, you can write a comment if you wish. And also, if you haven't seen any of my videos, review my math website at www.mathfullyexplained.com. And in here you get information in the section on me, which is number of degrees I have, and the teaching experience. The section on videos tells you about the teaching strategies I'm going to use to help you learn your math. And in the section on content, you have the units or the topics that I'm going to have online in my channel. And that gives you the number of videos in each of the topics. And the font, black font, is the content that's online, and the red font is the content that I'll have there in the near future. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.